Ani Bojo, Yapimose Akikwe, Inishnakas, Neonakwan and Dochba, Mukwa and Dodem, Nijo Medewin, Nahiawisquail. I just wanted to welcome you all to ANISHINAABE MAANJIDOWIN. Did I say that right? My two language teachers, they gave me the thumbs up. I really wanted just to extend my warm welcome to all of you for coming out to support us and kick off this amazing event. We're so fortunate to have the people that we have here today. And today is day one. We're going to be granting Professor Emeritus to both Dr. Dumont and Dr. Emily Faries, both of them who are just incredible founders and pivotal to this department here at the University of Sudbury, the Department of Indigenous Studies. I want to say thank you to our volunteers, to our decorators who swept in here, and just to everyone. It takes a team to make something like this happen, and most of all to our supporters, and we'll acknowledge our supporters in a second. Tomorrow is our day of gathering. It's just a day for us to come together in celebration and in honor of our ones who laid the path ahead of us for all of them. And so I invite you to come tomorrow. It's free as well. It begins at 11 o'clock. We're going to have I'm calling it emergent panel discussion because we're waiting to see who's here. So it's emergent. We'll find out tomorrow. But of course, Dr. Dumont will be here, Dr. Emily Faries, Mary Recollet is coming, Dr. Edna Manitowoc is here, Dr. Shirley Williams. Like, wow, hey? It's like, someone said it's like the who's who of Anishinaabe, like intellectual heart and intellectual and heart celebrities. So tomorrow it starts off at 11. We'll have that panel discussion, and it's not formal. Like tomorrow we characterized as really an informal day of where we get to listen, to hear what they have to offer to us. The theme is the continued spirit of Indigenous studies, and we're looking ahead. You know, we're following the tracks that our beautiful knowledge holders and now elders have left for us, but we're looking ahead to the future. Because there's the babies, you know, we have the Anishinaabe children that 7 times 7 generations. So it's our responsibility, particularly those of us who are my generation, newly minted kokums and nokomisak and mushomisak. It's our responsibility to ensure that these bundles of knowledge, of heart, of spirit are carried forward for our little ones. And so there's a couple of things. We have a book upstairs for sale called Indigenous Intelligence. And it was the 2006 Dr. Newberry lecture by Jim. And so it's one of a kind. You should get it, I'm just saying. I'm just gonna put a plug in. It's a phenomenal little gem. So we're selling it for $25 upstairs. You can get it between now and Saturday. They're $25 a copy, and the proceeds, which is perfect timing. These little guys that are just walking in are part of a Kinemotion, and the proceeds of that book are going to them. They're going to a Kinemotion, minus the printing costs for the University of Sudbury. But the rest of it will be divided between Jim and the children of a Kinemotion, so that the Kinemotion, for those of you that don't know, is a Anishinaabe language immersion land-based school that's here in Sudbury. And right now they're looking for funding. They're looking for capital dollars because they didn't get it this year, and so that's in part what this event is about too. It was about that desire to support our children and our youth and our next generation, our leaders, to support them for this land-based immersion school. And so the proceeds of that book upstairs, like I said, half of it will go to a Kinemotion, and some will go to Dr. Dumont as the one whose words it's his words. So please support that. We are accepting still donations on behalf of a Kinemotion. I'd really like to see that support for our children. They are phenomenal. That program You know, those little ones are thinking in Anishinaabe when they're thinking in Anishinaabe when that's how powerful that land-based learning is for them. And so I really hope that you all can support that over the next 3 days. Saturday is our gala. Everything will be held here at Canisius Hall. The Saturday event is catered by Hiawatha, who is a well-known Anishinaabe caterer here local to the Sudbury area. So she'll be whining and dining, well, not whining, but dining. She'll be giving us some of her beautiful food. So that one is sold out. So if you have tickets, yay. If you don't, it'll be live streamed. We have the beautiful Serene Fox. I'm so excited. Serene is taking the time out of her very, very busy schedule to come and honor these knowledge holders. And we have Wasikumnin Edward George, who's also going to be emceeing that event. So for now, I'll hand it over to our VP of Communications and Programming, Sylvie, and she'll get started with today. Miigwech.
Annie, quickly. Good afternoon, bonjour. Yes, Sylvie Renaud from University of Sudbury. And it is a pleasure to welcome you this afternoon to celebrate with us. So to get us going, or to get things started, I invite Shirley Williams to do the opening prayer.
Bonjour. Miigwech meg, we talk about Manda. Mme Emily Faries, kina. Imagine go on this. Imagine think. And the miigwech talk. Told give them this. And the kinondo walk knoma the bidik. Yeni çıkıyan bana popsun dogo bunda popsun mamba bunda ketten gibi medabane kişeba vitat başına narjında gibi mission gedabane minaga me ketmandır mentesin ganasın matnik ya. Nobody got it. I drove so fast this morning that my hair parted in order to get here. That's what I said. And thank you for asking me to say the opening prayer for these beautiful people that have taught me a lot throughout the years as I was growing up. And so I'm really thankful in order to be here, and I wanted to be here. And I made it. So thank you for all of that, and thank you for the beautiful day. Thank you for the beautiful sun this morning. So it is said in our culture that when the creation took place, the Creator gave us a tongue to use. That is what I'm going to use this afternoon, and I will try and translate it as much as I can in English after. So. Miigwech kijamana to nanga. Kimi shanks manda matsuen miigwech endam. Doing the chaos manda 6 manda ke memdiget so the chaos ubabunong the chaos. Kivishan omega 7 masate mamachi to manda sagitinen wananan and sagishkok. Ke miigwech mana sogeo the chaos geo the chaos oganakning wesi. Also, I was cashing on a den and gave with Nikia. Kavit Kanomagang, which I'm down, and I gave one Kanawang, and I ended on wish to move young. We were Chen Mana, Sigia, we give me many young on the Samajam. Gave with Nikia, Sapagishmak, Mem together, Migachana, Sagay with Nikia, so Ganokon and so and Kivineshi. Geiswin on the Manikias, can I go in Sabbatot some picking, can I get go in again? Migachana gay gabe. Geo Nikiasi you at num, on Nikiasa geo, Opskamako and Anibud. Kankanum young, Wajend young, Minawimskos young, Minawinoch young. Migachana sige, give me gong some skike. Geo Nikiasa, give me gong sige, way witness, so we not even with them all. Manda som bemansunena. Memdige, Migachana sorskak mekwe, give me gongs manda sak chitone magende beovo. Geo Nikiasa, Migachana sige, Memdige, pitchmina kwang manda sa neme bobo. Sechibina kusabyang, tinen winaning, wewenessa, winanagden mang manda som bemansunena. Gees en nu Kiwit se makso gishemne do yeso winat magyang wewen so winet kokyang man piece of king. Gemi we chana sigeo ke somene do ge would nikyas and de enang chibina kaso yang so wewen so izagak nature modest one thinking. Kinamigo chenva mesonango gishemne do so gikshus yang mina wam the mangsamando mimatsune namina wase abo. Migachan mana kiri gostan bina manjidowin so wewen so isjang kishvin ge wonen man kitsadan shkez no the suchna chenna toy. Migachan mamesa mandasun che mandasuim najadod gondasa ekchato kinomagejik getsijik kameni wangsa wewen so winanagden man mandasum matsunna. Ajen meshnam jemnido jen meshnam. 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 Megach. Megasele. Ukwendish nikasa benishin dodem. Minai konishin minewen tishgamo. Megachin meme san mino nungo omwen goksashunda. Thank you for asking me to say the opening prayer, and also we thank the Creator for giving us this life to the four directions of the universe. Each in the universe there are birds and animals that were assigned to look after the earth. Each of these teachings are different from tribe to tribe, so mine is not God's Bible. So don't say, Dr. Williams said so. Generally, there are differences in many of the tribes, so my teachings come from many sources of people. In the east is the eagle, the one that flies the highest, the one that carries our messages to the Creator when we ask for help or give thanksgiving. We also give thanksgiving to the southern direction, which is the deer, the one that taught us how to be kind, the one that gives us food and clothing, and the one that's still providing food for us today. We also give thanksgiving to the western direction, the thunderbird, the one that was given that knowledge to wet the earth, to wet the trees and the plants and everything, so that everything will grow in a good way. We also give thanksgiving, especially to the Mother Earth, for the water, so that we can live. And we first give them, when we first take that drink, to purify our mind, so that we can think in a good way, so we can think about our lives, how to look after it. We also give thanksgiving for that spirit that we walk with in daily life, to guide us, to make sure that we are stepping in a good way. We also give thanksgiving to our heart, so that we can love one another as human beings on this earth. We need love, we need to take care of each other, and that's what provides us that life, to guide us through, to give us that assistance that we need daily. We give thanksgiving for waking up this morning, and also to see the daylight, and also thanksgiving for our life today. And thank you for getting us here safely in a good way. And we especially give thanksgiving for these people that we're acknowledging today. For without them, I know for myself, I wouldn't be here where I am. the dream that I had about Edinburgh so long ago. I followed these teachings in every way that I can, not just the Medivan teachings, but other teachings that I have encountered with other elders, such as the priest, so Kwekwe. And I haven't seen Emily since we did the research a long time ago, so many years ago. And we do have a book, too. And by the way, I do have a book of my life. It's called Surely. If you see it somewhere, it's about my life in early childhood, of my father teaching me many different ways of hunting, trapping, and gathering. Those are stories and how I learned the discipline and also many different things that I wrote. So, and I did it not for the sake of me, but for the sake of my nieces and nephews who are coming behind and who were always asking me, how do you say this, Auntie Shirley? What was it like in your time? What did you do? So I talk about those things, that life is very different today. We learn about silhouettes. That's how we entertain ourselves at night. And of course, we would have a competition, with the shadows. We had rabbits and all of these. That's how we entertained, and then sometimes we would get rambunctious, and that's how my parents knew we were up to no good. And then what they would say is, it's time for a rest now. It's time to sleep, because you don't know the kind of hard work we'll have to do tomorrow. Because if you don't rest now and rest that mind, you won't be able to concentrate. So I leave you with those thoughts, and thank you for asking me for the prayer. Miigwech.
Miigwech. Now please welcome Jennifer Pathatagoose to do the land acknowledgement. Jennifer.
ANISHINAABE, Dumont Dr, I'm really honored to be here today. Before I do the land acknowledgement, I just wanted to share that I am a past student of the U of S. I actually brought my sweatshirt to just prove it. Back in 1995, this was my sweater. 20 years of academic self-determination, 1975 to 1995. Native Studies, University of Sudbury. And at the front, it has the quote, "One cannot know where one is going, lest one knows where one comes from."
We gotta do that again.
Just wanted to share that with you. I really did come here, and I'm really proud to be an alumnus. And I was also taught by Jim and Emily, so it truly is an honor. I've been, in addition to being a counselor, I've been a teacher for 20 years, and I teach Indigenous Studies over at St. Charles College in Sudbury. It's the biggest high school in Sudbury. And I'm really grateful for Emily for putting me on that kind of teaching path and teaching me all about education and how to teach the children well. She also wrote me a really nice letter that she got me my first teaching job in Moose Factory. So I had to go live in her home for a while. And I came back with all kinds of mitts, and oh my goodness, those craftspeople saw me coming. And to Professor Jim Dumont, he taught me what the children really need to hear. Last week I'm really happy that you allowed yourself to be filmed for the World Religions conference that you went to, because I was able to find a little piece of the creation story online from Professor Dumont. So I played that in my grade 9 class, and there were a bunch of 14 and 15-year-olds. And we cranked the speakers, we put it on the big smart board, and they all pulled their chairs up. And it was so awesome. So we played it for about 40 minutes. And that's about how long the clip is. I know it takes longer than 40 minutes to tell the whole thing. But at the end, just the look on those little boys' eyes, like they had never heard it before, you know, and it spoke to them. And I asked them after, I'm like, that's the most beautiful story you've ever heard, isn't it? And he said, yes, miss, it is. And I said, you know why it means so much to us? I said, because it's true. It's true. Sharing the truth with you. So I just wanted to share that you know, the ripple effect of the things that you've done, it's still going and still going strong. So I wanted to say, though, miigwech to everyone for coming and inviting me. On behalf of my community members who are here, and myself, I'd like to say Bindigin, welcome to our territory. We're Atikmaching, are signatories to the Robinson-Huron Treaty. We're part of the Three Fires Confederacy, and I'd like to say Bindigin. So, miigwech.
And now to perform the honor song, please welcome the Young Thunderbirds Drum Group. J'invite maintenant notre recteur et vice-chancelier à nous souhaiter la bienvenue. Dr. John Meehan, President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Sudbury.
I can just tell the way things are starting. It's going to be a great 3 days. I feel it already. So thank you for starting us off in a good way. Elder Shirley, thank you for your opening prayer. I'm just so struck by the gratitude in your prayer. And you said you rushed here and you parted your hair. I must have been driving even faster. And I had a full head of hair before I came here. And our drum group, and you honor us by your presence. And as I'm a new president of the University of Sudbury, And I came here, I'm originally from Nova Scotia, but I spent the last 10 years on Treaty 4 territory in Saskatchewan. So I'm so glad to have Natasha here because she reminds me of what became my home. And I'm the first Jesuit president here in 20 years since Father Jacques Monette. And I know there's a long history in this land with Jesuits and First Nations, and but I can honestly say that my 10 years in Saskatchewan converted me. My relationship with Indigenous people, with ceremony, with language. And every time I was invited to ceremony by friends, some who passed on, like my friend Noel Starblanket, who passed away. And I said, Noel, how could the Europeans and missionaries come here and not see the spirituality? You are always welcome in this place, because the Jesuit ethos of mind, body, and spirit, and the medicine wheel of mind, body, spirit, this is a welcome place for spirituality. And Indigenous spirituality, like Indigenous language, Indigenous culture, Indigenous people, will always be welcome here. So I want you to know that from the bottom of my heart. We are here to celebrate, as I say, and I wish I could be here for the whole celebrations. Unfortunately, I have a family emergency back in Nova Scotia. Both my parents are in hospital right now. So I'll be leaving after this tonight. So, Jim, if I walk out in the middle of your remarks, it's nothing you said. I have to go back and be with my parents, because I feel like I'm needed there. As a new president, I'm not the only new president on this campus, you may know. This is a federation. And this place, this University of Sudbury, these universities, this federation, there's something very Canadian about it. Because right here in this University of Sudbury, right on the campus of Federation of Laurentian, we have the three solitudes of Canada, right here. Francophone, Indigenous, Anglophone. And we know that that history hasn't always been positive. And yet, look at the potential for reconciliation here, if we can build relationships, healthy relationships built on trust, built on openness, built on communication. That's certainly my wish for dialogue between Indigenous and non-Indigenous, Anglophone and Francophone, right in this University of Sudbury. And we also know that as Canadians, federalism is very important, because federalism is a great way, and we get that from our Iroquois brothers and sisters, Haudenosaunee, of preserving diversity within unity. And the foundation of this country is built on federation. In 1960, 4 partners got together, or later I guess the Anglicans joined us, and we created a federation right here on this land. A federation that would reach out to those populations, Francophone, Anglophone, Indigenous. And so I want to recognize the many dignitaries here, Elder Shirley, Jennifer, I know a little bit from Atikamek-Sheng, and I know your dad. We're very grateful for your dad's spiritual presence on our campus. Edna, we met recently, he's on. People from the University of Laurentian Administration, Joseph, Joel, Shelley. I don't want to forget anyone. But this year, 3 of us started as new presidents. Myself, another John Gibault, he's the bearded one. And he's the new president of the Anglican College across the street, Thornlow. And Rob Haché, another bearded one, who is the new president of Laurentian. And I must say, I've appreciated our collaboration. It's all about relationships. And just as we are committed to positive relationships with our Indigenous brothers and sisters, we are committed to positive relationships in the Federation, because together we are truly stronger. I'd like to invite the president of Laurentian up to say a few words of welcome as the president of Laurentian University, as the new president of Laurentian University. So, Robert Haché, please feel welcome in this space.
Thank you very much, John. Good afternoon, everyone. Mme Emily Faries. Thank you, John, for the opportunity to say a few words at this wonderful event, which la contribution de l'Université de Sudbury et du département des études autochtones depuis la naissance de notre communauté est très important à reconnaître. I wish to congratulate all of those of you who have been a part of creating this great community, a community of sharing and learning Indigenous cultures, ways of knowing and seeing, and a community where students that come and go carry these experiences with them for the rest of their lives. Depuis 45 ans, l'Université de Sudbury a offert un programme qui cherche à bien partager le savoir et les histoires des peuples Premières Nations, Métis et Inuits, ce qui est essentiel à la vérité et à la réconciliation. Having the history and breadth of experience in Indigenous education that this department has, as the longest-standing program of its kind, is very special. And I look forward to our continuing and future collaborations. All the best in your celebrations over the next 3 days, and a special congratulations to Drs. Dumont and Faries on your significant milestones today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haché. I'm so glad that you can be present here, and my colleague at Thornlow as well, John Chabot. I'm very pleased to welcome you here, University of Sudbury. Most of you have some history here, and we really are here to serve the communities that we represent. As you know, we represent those 3 cultures that I've mentioned already. I talked a little bit about the Jesuit heritage, and when I say Jesuit, I mean holistic and openness to spirituality. And I'm so glad that I've been in conversation lately with Indigenous students who are expressing to me their needs for spirituality in this space. And I take those very seriously. It's a 3-day event, as you know, and I think as was mentioned a little bit too, some of the proceeds from these 3 days will be going for good causes. For scholarships for Indigenous students here, but also for Kinamusheng. And I'm a little bit new to Tikameksheng, but I did meet some people at the round dance the other night from that school. I know some are here. And what a worthy project to support Indigenous languages. From early on, we've understood the importance of Indigenous knowledge, culture, and people, of the Métis perspectives as well, and of the need to educate the non-Indigenous about Indigenous realities. I went through my education all the way to a PhD in Canadian history. And maybe I'm a little bit older, but I'm embarrassed to say, in my PhD program, we learned nothing about residential schools. Nothing. And thank God that that's not the case anymore in this country. But still, our non-Indigenous brothers and sisters have been deprived of that knowledge. And so we're celebrating Indigenous studies, and let's not forget the need to educate our non-Indigenous students as well, because that's what we need in this country if we're going to have truth and dialogue and reconciliation. The humanities and social sciences, and we're committed to those, especially in our Indigenous Studies program, provide opportunities for discovery, for sharing stories, and for healing. We are called to be people of reconciliation, and reconciliation is hard work. We're never quite finished. And sometimes it feels like we take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. But ultimately, when we talk about reconciliation, we're talking about right relationships on all levels. And so to enter into those right relationships, we have to know about each other. We have to value each other. We have to hold up those things that make us unique. And that's what our Indigenous Studies program has done since its beginning. It was a program ahead of its time, 1975. There weren't any other programs of its kind at that time. And so I'm very grateful for those people whose shoulders we stand on, who had the foresight to set up this program. And first of all, I'd like to mention the late Dr. Ed Newberry. How many of you remember him? You know, when I started off my term as president, I went for a walk in our Garden of Peace just behind us here, where we represent all the major world religions and spiritualities. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done? I've accepted to be president of the University of Sudbury. What did I get myself into? And I sat on a bench and I just reflected. And I had a very peaceful moment there. When I got up, it said, there's a little plaque saying, this is where were scattered the ashes of Ed Newberry and his wife in our peace garden. So I'd like to believe that their spirits are with us today in a special way. Dr. Newberry had a vision of what this place could be, what this program could be. And with your permission, Jim, I'd like to quote a passage from your book on Indigenous intelligence, and thank you, Tasha, for the plug. I read it too. I urge you all to go out and buy a copy. It's for a good cause. But Jim, you had this to say about Dr. Newberry. He was insistent that the articulation of our way of life, our way of the spirit, our way of knowledge, should come from Native people themselves, not from somebody outside the Native culture. In reading his ideas and being acquainted with him over the years, it is clear to me that his ideas and thoughts were very much like Indigenous thought. But he would not put himself in the position of being that voice for us. So clearly Dr. Newberry understood that Indigenous people have their own voices. And what we're called to do in our country then, now as then, is to let that voice be heard. Let that voice ring out. Because our country needs it. Our non-Indigenous people need it, and our Indigenous people need it as well. In 1975, Dr. Newberry asked the late Dr. Art Solomon to collaborate in creating a Native Studies program. I'm sure many of you remember him as well. I wish I'd known these people. I feel like I came on the scene too late. Dr. Solomon was one of the co-founders, and his experience and commitment to sharing knowledge were central in bringing this project to fruition. They're both no longer with us, but their legacies live on, and we stand on their shoulders. Among the people we honor today also is Dr. Nahum Kanai, who's still with us, but he's aging, and unfortunately can't be with us today. I have not met him yet, so he's on my list of people. I'm new to Sudbury, so I have a lot of people to meet. But he spent 32 years here and devoted much time and energy to bringing a lot of innovation to the department. Who's next on my list? Edna. Dr. Edna Manitowabi, who I've met now for the second time. And I've heard a lot about you through Tasha and many others. And when I was at Trent University 2 weeks ago, I actually saw your office there, so you're everywhere. Who is Dr. Edna Manitowabi? And how can we sum it up in just a few sentences? She's a widely recognized Anishinaabe elder, a traditional teacher, an author, and yes, an actor as well. And I was so happy to see you in Indian Horse. And when I saw your interview on TVO, I was so moved by how you shared how that connected with your own personal experience and how it was so transformative for you. When I started in my role here, I found an old picture from a yearbook in 1980-something of you and Jim. So I should put those pictures up somewhere from days gone by. But welcome back. This is your home too. Edna was one of the first people to teach within our Native Studies program, as it was called at that time, along with Thomas Elkos, another important person we want to recognize. So there are many people who have contributed a lot to this program. But today, as you know, we'd like to highlight two remarkable people. First, on my left, Dr. Jim Dumont. Welcome. Dr. Jim Dumont is Ojibwe Anishinaabe of the Martin clan, originally from Shawanaga First Nation in East Orchard Bay, as well as a keeper of the sacred water drum, amongst many other achievements and distinctions, chief of the eastern doorway of the Three Fires Medewin Lodge. Now Jim and Dr. Ed Newberry helped build the Indigenous Studies Department, and he served as principal cultural advisor who designed and shaped the curriculum of the program. And Jim, I believe you taught here as full-time professor for something like 25 years, is that right? More or less. From 1975 to 2000. And after that, he continued as part-time distance education instructor. He created and taught courses that, when you look at it now, were ahead of their time. Courses on Indigenous psychology, Indigenous ways of seeing, Indigenous peoples in the international context, something that I want to know more about as an international relations scholar. And so I do urge you to look at his book, because it really is a gem of Indigenous ways of knowing. And so thank you, Jim, for contributing that to the world at large. He chaired the department from 84 to 88. So thank you, Jim, for all of your accomplishments to this place. They are truly appreciated. So, I'll give it. And last but not least, Dr. Emily Faries. Welcome. Miigwech. Yes, for all your contributions here as well. Now, Emily and I met a few months ago at the homelessness conference in this space, and I had heard a lot about you as well, and I will get up to James Bay sometime to visit you there. I'd like to see it. I've heard a lot about it, especially the program that you were so instrumental in running there. Dr. Emily Faries is a member of the Moose Cree First Nation. She began at the U of S Indigenous Studies Department in 1995. I was amazed to learn, Emily, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, after getting your PhD, you did your Bachelor of Education here, Laurentian, and then you went on to do a PhD in Education at the University of Toronto, and are the first Indigenous woman from James Bay area to earn a doctorate.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, it was in 1991.
1991. Dr. Faries retired from here as associate professor not that long ago, June 2019, after almost 25 years, so almost the same time as Dr. Dumont. As I said earlier, she was instrumental in the James Bay project, which helped bring on-site post-secondary education to several James Bay coastal communities. And what the beauty of that was, it allowed students to stay in their communities and receive a post-secondary education, which is a wonderful thing. We all know how education can transform lives and transform communities, and so thank you, Dr. Faries, for being part of that very important project. I was also impressed to learn that you volunteered as spokesperson for veterans in the Moose Creek community, so that's very important work as well, so I'd like to acknowledge all our veterans as well. Dr. Faries is a quiet, undemonstrative person in most of her interactions, but we know how passionate you are when it comes to the education of Indigenous peoples. So, and I know you've touched many lives in James Bay, but also down here in Sudbury, and I know you share your time between the two places. And finally, I'd like to recognize her also for having won the Inspired National Aboriginal Achievement Award, which is another great accomplishment. So, thank you for your inspiration. So when we reflect on the lives of Dr. Dumont and Dr. Faries, we think about the emphasis of our program from 1975 and to today as well. And I'm very happy with our new hire, Dr. Tasha Beeds, because she lives that out like our other faculty members, who are not just about the academy, but they're also about community. And that's been part of their teaching, and it infuses their teaching and continues to change lives here today. So thank you to all of our faculty for doing that. So it's been a great 45 years, and it's not just past, but we have a very active present, as you can talk to our faculty and students and know that. I've met many of our students. I'm very inspired by them. And a bright future as well, because we know that education will continue to be important in the future. Education is about transforming individuals who will go on to transform society. And the American advocate for children's rights, Marian Wright Edelman, said this about education. Education is for improving the lives of others and for leaving your community and world better than you found it. So I want to thank all those involved in this educational enterprise in Indigenous studies, because you will truly leave the world better than you found it, and you are creating and inspiring a whole new generation. So thank you. And then finally, I'd like to thank all those who made these 3 days of events possible. It's been quite an experience. So I'm looking around the room at all those who helped on the planning committee, Tasha and Sylvie and Marianne and Cassandra, so many others. I think that planning experience was an experience of reconciliation in itself, of the highs and lows and everything else. And here we are, we made it, we're here. And I just want to thank all the members of that planning committee. I want to thank our partners at Laurentian. I want to thank all of our donors. I'm so amazed how the donors from the community stepped up to help us financially and with other sorts of support to make these 3 days possible. When people ask me about my work in reconciliation, which began in Saskatchewan, and they talked about needs in the community, I said, yes, there's a lot of challenges in Indigenous communities and in non-Indigenous communities. There's a lot of things that make us sad. There's a lot of things that can depress us. We see what the challenges are. And so my friend asked me, well, what gives you hope? And without hesitation, I said, education. Education is about the future. Education is about unleashing opportunities. Education is about reaching our potential. And that's what we have done for 45 years and will continue to do. Thank you again for transforming lives, transforming society, and I look forward to launching the next 45 years. May they be as full of change and hope and transformation as the last 45 have been. Thank you. God bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Meehan. It is a pleasure this afternoon to recognize the designation of Professor Emeritus for two individuals. Chancellor, the first recipient will be presented to you by Dr. Marianne Corvia.
Honorable Chancellor, Chair of the Board, Mr. President, and distinguished guests. With the hiring of Dr. Emily Faries in 1995, the University of Sudbury reaffirmed its recognition of Native Studies as a discipline equally in standing to any other and unique in its mission. I remember Jim's excitement beneath that always quiet demeanor, that here was a candidate who fit the bill of Indigenous scholar perfectly. True to the vision its founding members had of our program, Emily's work was firmly rooted in the Indigenous community, embodying its knowledge and values. She brought to the department not only experiential knowledge, but skills in community-based research that she had honed through her doctoral dissertation. We were thrilled that such an outstanding Cree scholar was joining us. Service to the First Nations community remained Emily's paramount research focus throughout her years with us. She applied her research skills to such work as advocacy before the government on behalf of her community. Native Studies. Emily, I apologize, I did not get a chance to learn how to say that in Cree. Hopefully our sister languages are similar enough that you can get the gist of that remark. Service to our community, directly through research and indirectly through our diverse students, is the raison d'etre of our department. Her contributions are recognized, as noted already, with a well-deserved National Aboriginal Achievement Award in 1998. During her tenure as department chair, Emily ably drew on what some have termed bicompetence, knowledge of Indigenous ways and of how mainstream systems work. She carried out her duties exemplarily by balancing a respect for institutional policies with compassion when difficult issues came before her. Many people here on campus and out in the community have had the benefit of her gifts of wisdom and empathy. One account illustrating that stands out in my mind. That's a story a young man shared at her retirement celebration. Emily and her husband Bill had purchased land in Matheson on which to hold ceremonies and to practice the land-based spiritual tradition. The young man described movingly how he had found a home, a family, I'm getting teary-eyed here, and through that, healing, when Emily and Bill invited him to spend time with that community there. Testaments like that young man's and from her students would no doubt take many minutes, if not several hours, to share. So without further ado, Mr. Chancellor, by the authority of Senate, I present to you Dr. Emily Faries, that she may receive the designation of Emeritus Professor at the University of Sudbury.
Congratulations. You deserve all of it, much more, and I hope that your contributions will be remembered forever. Congratulations.
And now I invite you, Dr. Faries, to say a few words.
Good afternoon. A
few weeks ago, well, maybe about a month ago, my colleague called me on the phone, Will phoned me, and I was just dealing with a crisis. I'm always, of those of you who know a lot of the, traumas that our community, our people go through. I was just leaving the hospital because I was helping a girl who was, we were trying to get into a detox. And then Will was phoning me, and I didn't tell him what I was doing, but I was in like really distraught and not focused. And Will was telling me about this professor Emeritus thing and asking me about if I was available on dates. And all I heard was Jim Dumont. And I said, I'll try really hard to be there because I've known Jim for a long time. And he said, you're getting one too, Emily. So I didn't even know what it was. I had to go and do some research. But I want to thank the university for this recognition. I also want to thank the university for the opportunity to do what I love, and that is teaching. More specifically, teaching the truth about my people, their historical journey, the impacts of colonization, and most importantly, our vision for the future. I'm honored to have been granted the Professor Emeritus title, and more especially honored to receive it along with Jim Dumont. Our paths had crossed when I was a very young woman. I was still a teenager, and I came to this university. And I, as Indigenous people, we magnetize to each other. So I met Jim and Edna and other people that were around, and they were just starting and talking about the Native Studies program, but it was not set up yet. I graduated actually the year that it started. And at that time, there were about 2 or 3 Indigenous students in this university. So we've come a long way because we have hundreds of them now enrolled in our university. Jim became a mentor to me, and I learned a lot from his intelligence, his knowledge, his worldview. And I know it was not by accident that we crossed paths. Now I understand it was meant to be, especially today. It's a milestone in my life, and I'm very thankful for that. I just gotta get some water because I just I'm just getting over a cold, so I'm trying hard to keep my voice. To all my colleagues, my co-professors during the quarter century that I was here, I thank each one of you for being part of my professional life. And I know Mary is not here, but I want to especially thank Mary Recollet, who is the foundation of our department. She always and continues to keep everything together. She was always the real chair of this department. So to all my co-workers, again, it was meant to be that we cross paths in this lifetime. And I'm starting to really, reflect on people that I met and where I've been, and it's been amazing. I also extend my thanks to my family, and when it's an extended family, like it's probably like 500-600 people, probably 1,000. We come from very, very large families. To my brothers and sisters who can't be here because of distance, who always supported and celebrated me at each step of my journey, the different things that happened along the way. To my partner, Bill, who I met 1 year after I started teaching here, thank you for your support in my busyness of traveling north continuously, always wanting to go home. And he'd drive me, helping me, making sure I got back to my classes here. I want to thank you for that because I was always, needing to be home. up north in James Bay. And to my son, Shmuel. His real name is Brian, but Shmuel was his nickname that I gave him when he was little baby. To my son, who I had when I was a teenager. I was a teenage mom. When I started university here, I had a baby. And he journeyed alongside me throughout my undertakings, all the things I decided to do. And I know he also had to make sacrifices along the way because I was so busy. And I thank him for being part of my life. I also thank my parents, both who are in the spirit world, who gave me what I call the gift of education. They were not highly educated, they were residential school. I don't even want to say survivors, but they were residential school victims. And despite that, they knew that an education was the key to a better life for their children. They provided encouragement to us to stay in school, and as a child, they made sure I got enough sleep, food to eat, and make sure that I went to school every day. Before they left for the spirit world, they witnessed how their children succeeded through education into professional positions. All they wanted was their children to have a better quality life, and their dreams came true. And I know that they're here with us. And also to my community, the grassroots people back home, all of whom have been an inspiration in all the challenges that I decided to take on. It was really for you that I did not quit, although sometimes it became very rough. I've always been rooted and connected to where I was born and raised, and this is where I have this pull to my community and my people all the time. And to the Anishinaabe people of this territory, I thank you for making me feel welcome in your ancestral homelands. As I was far away from my own, working here at the university. And I felt really good here and welcomed and became part of your family here as Anishinaabe people. I also want to thank my students, probably thousands, I'd say, over the years that I was here, for choosing to take my classes, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, who have become advocates for our people through their acquired knowledge of our historical journey. I also want to thank especially those students in my own community and those in the James Bay communities of Ottawa, Piscataway, Saskatchewan, and Fort Albany, who took the courses that were offered through the community-based program, which was a partnership between the University of Sudbury and the Mushkego Council. And the goal of the program was to bring education to the people. When the university did a study with various groups, Francophones, Indigenous people in the area, on what the university can do for them. Every time they talked to people from the Mushkego territory, the Cree territory, and northeastern Ontario, they always said the most difficult time we have is having to uproot to get a higher education. And said that if you want to do something for us, bring education to us. And that's what the university did. It lasted for 5 years, and throughout this program, it was clearly demonstrated that students become empowered through the learning of the truth of who their ancestors were and what happened along our 500-year journey. In each class, we gained healing from the intergenerational trauma, and it was clearly evident that knowledge is power. And I thank all those students for being part of my journey as a teacher, because it was more than just teaching. The knowledge, was instrumental in creating a healing journey for each one of those students that came through the classes, because they learned the truth about what happened and understood why we had dysfunctions in our community and in our families. And it was amazing. It was, it was something that I thank the Creator for being able to be a part of that. And I hope that someday that program could continue or start up again, but it was a very, very incredible journey. So in closing, I want to thank again the university for recognition of my professorship. And I will carry this title of Professor Emeritus with pride and honor. Miigwech.
The other recipient will be presented to you by Tasha Beats.
So I'm a brand new academic, kind of, like this is my first tenure track position, so I didn't prepare the speech like Marianne, but one of my Anishinaabe students reminded me, as they always do, we can speak from our heart too. And so I'm really, really honored to be able to be the one to present and ask the Chancellor and our distinguished guests to honor Onabinase, who walks above the ground. He is Anishinaabe of the Wabashishi clan, the Martin clan. He is 5th degree Midewin of the Three Fires Midewin Lodge. He's originally from Shawanaga, that's my Cree tongue, sorry, First Nation on the eastern Georgian Bay. He has pursued this cultural way of life since the 1960s into the 1970s. He has traveled far and wide, picking up those bundles of knowledge. And his travels and his dedication to the Anishinaabe nation, to Anishinaabe, the land, Shkakumakwe, to Nebe, to all of creation, is unparalleled. He is one of those ones that our ancestors looked ahead and saw 7 generations ago. He is one of those ones that they knew would appear to walk above the ground, especially that colonial ground. And what he has accomplished is unparalleled. He has brought the Anishinaabe spirit into a space that up until that point had excluded us. We were not even allowed to be in university. We were not even considered humans at one point. And during those early years, he led with heart and with Indigenous intelligence. There are many, many stories of those early years. And I'm new, like our President John. We're both brand new to the university. I'm not new to the territory, though. I've been living here down south and up this way for the last 10 years. And like my auntie, I'll just say because we're Cree, even I'm different kinds of Cree, but my auntie says, the Anishinaabe have opened their hearts to me as well. And I didn't meet Jim until quite later on in my time here, but his influence was felt at Trent University as well, where I did my PhD in Indigenous Studies under the guidance of Dr. Edna Manitowabi and Dr. Shirley Williams. So I've been really fortunate to be profoundly rooted in the kind of knowledge that Onabinase promoted, which was Anishinaabe control of Anishinaabe education. That's right. That's his great grandson who's like affirming, right? That's his great grandson, and that's why we're here today. And that's why they built what they started to build so long ago, not just inside the academy. And I really wanted to emphasize that. His role is here inside the academy, but the ripple effect, as our sister said, it's gone beyond the academy. It ripples into every part of the Anishinaabe nation, and beyond that, to all other Indigenous nations. I'm Plains Cree, and I knew who Jim Dumont was. Right? His influence is unparalleled, and he laid a path for us as Anishinaabe intellectuals, right? Because this isn't our school. We're here, but our education occurs out there as Anishinaabe. This to me is a doorway, and that's how I saw what Jim and all the others ahead of us who opened those doorways for us here in academia. They were opening them for us so we could step through to our own systems and our own ways of knowing. So we understood fully the concept of Anishinaabe, control of Anishinaabe education. And his presence in terms of the intellectual landscape of this discipline, like you have to understand, he's not just a founder of the University of Sudbury Department of Indigenous Studies. He's one of the founders of the discipline of Indigenous Studies. The discipline of Indigenous Studies, which is internationally renowned now. Right? We are where we are today because of leaders like Winabenison. And so, with whatever she said, I say, Chancellor, if you would kindly present Dr. Jim Dumont with the Professor Emeritus, I would greatly be appreciative and honored that you would do that. Good.
Influence will be with us forever and ever. You are a leader in this field. Always be recognized. Congratulations. Beautiful work. And may the Spirit be with you forever.
To invite Dr. Dumont to say a few, there were notes under here, I just found them. All the tricks that the academics have to learn. I'd like to invite Dr. Dumont to say a few words and share with us some of his thoughts. That's really nice. See, these are our role models. These are whose footsteps I know I follow, and I know the ones after me will follow. Miigwech. My first.
Anishinaabe name was Sinape. And that name actually, it doesn't literally say walks above the ground. When she gave me that name, she said, the name literally means one who walks on top of the crusted snow. And she said, if you ever in a dream or in a fast, in a vision, you ever see someone walking toward you and their feet aren't touching the ground as they walk, you are seeing the spirit. That's the way the spirit moves. And when you're walking on top of the crusted snow, that's what you're doing. You're walking above the ground. And she said, if you live up to your name, if you follow the ways that we have been given, then one day you will be like what your name says you are. And I hope that that's the way I am. As you now know, my great-grandchildren are here. I guess that's one of the accomplishments you can't really claim for yourself. Great-grandchildren. But I feel like I had a little part to play. It is an extra honor to be receiving this along with Emily Faries. I notice as I'm getting older, I get more emotional more easily. And I guess that's part of the bargain. In this time that we're in, where I'm trying to make these remarks relevant to the presentation while we're here for that. I realize that this institution that houses Indigenous studies is going through difficult times itself, and one of the big problems, as always, is being able to finance the institution. religious studies is part and parcel of that which has been going on in this university since it began. This university was set up as on the same structural basis as the University of Toronto, with denominational universities, like Victoria University was United Church University within the University of Toronto. So University of Sudbury structured itself in that same manner. And so on the hill here, Huntington, which is United Church, and Thornhill, which is Anglican, and U of S, which is the Catholic University, and then the non-denominational university, Central University, was Laurentian Prophet. And they formed an agreement that they would be a university made up in that fashion. But eventually, in time, the University of Laurentian began to put pressure on the church, the denominational colleges, who were actually universities in their own right, to limit them to more of a college status and more. And the university, Huntington University, Thornhill was the first one to bend, to buckle under that pressure. And then Huntington. And Dr. Ed Newberry was actually president principal of Huntington University. He was a United Church minister. But they more or less got rid of him because he was parading down the streets of Sudbury behind the coffin that represented the end of the death of the denominational universities, and being president principal of Huntington, he was saying that University of Huntington was, if nothing was being done, it was being allowed to die and be much of a lesser force. And he came over to, it's like Protestant coming over to the Catholic and saying, can I be housed here for the things that I want to do? That's how he ended up over here at University of Sudbury. And his vision was to make the indigenous way of life, in those days it was native word, a centerpiece for the studies at university here at Laurentian. And so he began to work on that. And so he eventually got in touch with me and asked if I would become a part of it. At that time it was just a program. It was a program in religious studies. And a woman from the Department of Anthropology and a man from the School of Social Work put up made a big fuss, a big stink about the program in Native Studies, that it wasn't academically up to par, and it was involving itself in social issues of our time. And that's now what universities were all about. And so they forced the university to hold an independent review commission to study the Native Studies program here. And Jour ended up being on that, who was at that time the president or the chair of Native Studies in Peterborough. And I'm not remembering her name right now.
Sally Weaver.
Sally Weaver was an anthropologist.
Waterloo.
At Waterloo. And so they held these reviews and over a period of time. So the whole thing kind of backfired. It wasn't the anthropology department, it wasn't the sociology or social work, the school of social work that was making this, but it was these two members, so it was two disciplines. But out of the recommendation that came out of that was that they recommended that not only was the Native Studies program up to par academically, not only were they involved in social issues, but that they should be. And so they recommended that the program of Native Studies become a department of Native Studies. So actually this review was commissioned. It was forced on Laurentian. Ended up becoming the reason why the Native Studies department was formed. And Native Studies as a discipline was initially inaugurated here at Laurentian University and the University of Sudbury. So I always acknowledge Dr. Ed Newberry as the key person for doing it. And there was something about Native Studies here that was different than Trent was the first one to become a discipline within Native Studies discipline within the university. And we were the second, and then in Manitoba, and then eventually in Saskatchewan, and eventually in BC. But what was unique about Trent University, they put Native Studies through as a social sciences in that area. And Native Studies remain what was put through as arts and humanities discipline under the or following the three, I'm going to say three, I hope I know all three, the three foundational pillars of what Native Studies would be here. And it was tradition and culture and the language would be at the core. And tradition and culture and language. Being here, it was recognized by us that being housed within the University of Sudbury, which is the Jesuit university, or was, that they would be able to recognize that just to talk about culture and tradition requires you to acknowledge the place of the Spirit. And that's what remained unique about Indigenous studies here, is that it always had that. And even language connects you with the Spirit. So we didn't become huge as the department in terms of population. Mind you, the population was significant. Yes, before that there was hardly any avenue for pursuing Native studies as your own discipline. But we made a tremendous mark in the evolution of Native studies and Indigenous studies in the universities. And this question came up later on in the 90s about whether we should join Laurentian as the one that would host our department. And we met in the department about that. Because there was this invitation and this push for Indigenous studies, Native studies to become part of the Laurentian proper. And we decided against it. We decided against it because we would just get caught up in the larger university. At university, we were always recognized as an essential part of the University of Sudbury. And we have remained that way even to today. And the other reason in all of that was in spite of the Jesuit history, which is somewhat problematic. It was a feeling, and there's proof that it was so, the experience of involvement with the Jesuit community through those founding times. The Jesuit body they surely must recognize that the Spirit is a part, an essential part of everything that we do. And so we made that decision, and as I understand it, it's coming up again. And the University of Sudbury is not necessarily in as strong a position as it was financially. But I would advocate that there needs to be an Indigenous studies presence in the university. Also, it should be housed in this part of the university. And that the University of Sudbury shouldn't buckle under the pressure. Because I think that they can make such a stand. Indigenous studies is actually keeping the University of Sudbury going now. I know I'm allowed to say these things.
That's under the bag.
My mom and dad were a United Church, and so I didn't start going to church until my dad said, I thought I was 7 or 8 years old. He said you're about 12 before we started back, before we went back to church. And so I always recognize that as perhaps my saving grace. I wasn't raised in the formative years in that atmosphere of the church influence. And so when later in life, when I chose to look for and follow my own way, it was an easier thing to do. But I was involved with the Truth and Reconciliation Commission as the spiritual advisor to Single Justice and I was walking around one day in one of the national meetings and came across the United Church. They're having a gathering, and I missed out on most of it. I wasn't in a position where I was supposed to be talking about these things because of my position. I sat in it for a while, and I told him my brother is a United Church minister, and he told me that when all this started to happen and all the things were being revealed, Anglican Church was the first one that was going to go, and the United Church was going to go because they wouldn't be able to afford the lawsuits that would be coming up. And the Catholic Church would probably be the only one to survive because of the size and wealth of that institution. And then I got a call from my brother later on, and he said he was happy to report that the United Church, the churches got together and they put pressure on the government to take responsibility for what the government had done. And it was a good thing in a way, but at the same time it took the pressure off the churches. And that's what he was talking to me about. And so it meant that places like Thornlow and Huntington and those efforts, those churches could go ahead if the government took most of the blame for it. little children. If you disturb and destroy the life of a child, that child has that for a lifetime. And may never recover. May decide to check out of this life because of that. And I said, if you are really a Christian body, then you would have to admit that. And if you admit it, it should move you to say, well, because of what I have done, I have almost destroyed a people. And now I will not rest until I restore that opportunity to live again. Unless I help that to make it possible, even if it breaks me, even if it breaks the church financially. And to me, that was a statement of reconciliation that never was made, but should have been made. I'm saying all this because we're going through a time when reconciliation is on the table again. And we're also at a time when people are beginning to say reconciliation is dead. And in a number of ways, that's probably true. There's an ugly energy that has been released, and it's out there amongst people. And there are things happening politically and with the land and with sweating people. All those things that are taking place now are threatening the spirit of reconciliation. So I think that University of Sudbury should make some kind of stand in what is happening for us as a people in relation to education, in relation to our pursuit of knowledge and our pursuit of indigenous ways of doing things and thinking about things, and indigenous ways of knowing. I don't think that the church would ever say this in as stark a way as I'm suggesting. But I'll put it out there anyway. and the mess of the Catholic Church is that it has a lot of money. But the church that university that is crumbling beneath the pressure, that is still there from the main university, now it has to worry about whether it can survive all of this. But I think that the church in this place here, the Jesuits, in spite of the history of relationship, has been has made it possible for native studies to develop and become what it has become. And I think that the church, it shouldn't be that difficult. I know when it comes to money it is, but it shouldn't be that difficult to say, I will do whatever I can to ensure that Indigenous studies has a place in the university community. And I will support it even if it breaks me. Because what this country has done, what Canada has done, and what churches have done, and what those various bodies have done over the years has caused for there to be a serious toll taken on our people and our way of life. The reconciliation for us as a people is the healing process. That's what reconciliation is for us. For Canada, it's to take responsibility for the way that encounter has taken place and the way that history has unfolded, and make some serious commitments about it. What does all of this have to do with this presentation that I've just been given, this honor? Maybe I just forced you to stand behind the things that we as Indigenous people believe in. As when you recognize me as this, what has been given this, it's a recognition that as a professor, I would say I'm a true professor because I have something to profess. As a professor of great merit, that's the way I understand it. And so it is truly an honor to receive the recognition as Professor Emeritus. And I'm suggesting as the first words that I speak after receiving such an honor is, let's get to the spirit of what Indigenous studies that has been created here holds for the people, Indigenous people, get behind that and make it possible for that to happen here, to be housed here, and to unfold here, and whatever that's going to look like in the future. So according to my notes that I don't have, that's what I wanted to say. A lot of things have happened here in Indigenous studies. A lot of lives have been affected. And there's quite a number of people out there who are doing important things now, who went through this program. I get to feel that every once in a while when I meet people out there doing things in the world. And because they let me know that they were a student of mine once, or I recognize them as students who are making a difference now in the world. And it makes me feel good too. To hear that. And the link of all of this with our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren is necessarily becomes a part of everything that we do. So we wait for this honor and me wait for letting me take advantage of the fact that I'm sitting so again, me wait.
Reg, as those of you that are coming to acknowledge and show the gratitude and thanks and congratulations